Hey guys, Mike here with another repair video. And today what we're working on is a 2001 Nissan Sentra 1.8 liter. We've got a crank no start issue, and we're going to go through what I did to diagnose and repair this vehicle. Here we are at the vehicle. Again, this is a 2001 Nissan Sentra 1.8 liter. And what we got going on is a crank no start. Now I've just finished charging up the battery, and I want to show you that it does crank. But it does not start. Alright guys, so the first thing that you can do to check to see why the vehicle isn't starting is to spray some starter fluid into the throttle body or the intake, and make sure you do it after the mass airflow sensor so that you don't damage any sensitive electronics. So you would want to remove that entire air duct assembly and then spray some starter fluid into an open throttle body, let the throttle body close, and then try and start the vehicle. We're going to do that now. Alright guys, so here we are. We've got our starting fluid, and I removed the intake piping, and what we're going to do is we're going to open the throttle body and spray some starting fluid in there and see if we can get her to start. So we are going to do that now. I'm going to try my best to get a good view of this. I don't know if you guys will be able to see that or not, but we will see. I'm going to open the throttle body, spray some starting fluid in there. Alright. Okay, and as you can see, it runs off of starting fluid. Which, I don't know if you guys know, but that's kind of a clear sign that we obviously do not have fuel. So that gives us some direction as to what to do. Alright guys, so here we are at the fuse block, and one of the first things you want to check is your fuses to the fuel pump or fuel related fuses, or any, your fuel injection system, or for whatever reason, if any of those aren't, working or they're broken, you obviously want to replace those and find out why they blew in the first place, and of course you want to look for any blown ECM fuses or anything like that. Alright, so the first thing we're going to look at here is our fuel pump relay, and that's this blue guy here. And what we're going to check is on that black wire with the yellow tracer right here on the right hand side, that should have 12 volts when the pump primes and 12 volts while cranking, and we're going to check to see if our test light lights up when we turn the key on and prime the pump, and then while we crank. So we're going to go ahead and get our test light, which I've got right here, and you want to connect the test light to the negative battery post or a good ground. And you always want to test your connection. You don't want to just go ahead and start using it right when you connect it. Always connect it up to the battery, connect the clamp to the negative, and touch the positive. Make sure you light up so that you have a good connection, and you know that, so you don't get any false tests or false results. So we're going to take our test light, and we're going to put it in the back of this pin here. And like I said, it would be our positive that should be going to the pump to turn the pump on. So, and of course we want to grab our key, put our key in, and then we're going to watch that test light and see if we get any action here. So, as you can see, the pump just primed. I'll turn it back off and do it again. So it's not going to prime, of course, because we just did it, but so we'll go ahead and crank and see if we get any light on that. Alright, so as you guys can see, our pump is attempting to turn on. So that means our relay does work. So our fuel pump relay is working properly. Now we need to go back to the tank and find out whether or not we have that 12 volts at the pump. Alright guys, so here we are again with our test light. And here I've got the connector for the fuel pump. Now, it looks like somebody destroyed that and just twisted it back up. I'm not sure, maybe somebody was trying to diagnose this before, but this is the connector for the fuel pump. And if you just look under the back seat, you'll find that the rear seat comes up and the fuel pump is right in the center of the rear seat underneath, and that connector will be right on top. It plugs into right here, and it's a very easy pump to get to. So we're going to take that connector and we're going to check and find out if we have 12 volts while cranking at that connector, and that will verify whether or not our pump is actually getting power back there to the connector. So first things first is we're going to take our connector, and then we're going to take our test light, and remember that black and yellow wire is our fuel pump. We're going to put that guy in there just like that. Want to back probe it, don't damage anything. Jeez, it just fell out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and hold it there best I can. I know you guys can't see very well, and I apologize for that, but let me get it settled in there and I'll show you what I did. Alright, so I got our stuff in there now. I got our test light up in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the ignition off for a second, take the key out and all that, and then I'm going to put the key back in, turn it on, and we'll find out if we got a prime. Alright, so you can see that it just primed back here at the connector, and we're going to go ahead and crank now. Alright, so the entire time while cranking, that test light is definitely on. So that means our pump is getting power back there. Okay, so I just want to give you guys an idea of how to remove this fuel pump from the housing or from the vehicle. So first of all, when you lift up the rear seat, you're going to see this plate. And that plate is going to have the harness for the fuel pump going through it with this rubber grommet here. So this is going to go in there, and this grommet's going to sit on top. You can pull that grommet and remove that entire assembly, or that cable I mean, so that it's not in your way. And then under that, you're going to find 6 of these small screws. Now do not bother even trying to use a Phillips head. They will not come out. They never have for me. I've done a lot of these pumps, specifically Nissan, of course. They're always in the tank, but or always in the under the back seat is what I meant. But you're never going to get those out with that unless you have some kind of magic in your hands. But so what you want to use is an 8mm socket. What I used was a small 1/4 inch impact and an 8mm deep well, and that's what I used to get them out. Just a pointer so you guys can tell what's going to work and what's not. So then you remove these lines by pinching in. You just pinch these 2 pieces of plastic together with some kind of pliers. You can use like needle nose or something. I actually was able to use my hands, and basically you just pull back on the line while holding the pump assembly. You can take those lines off before you actually remove the pump from the housing by those screws. I just did it that way because it's not a big deal for me. So then you want to remove this metal lock ring here and lay that over to the side, of course. And then you don't want to take this pump out until you have somewhere to put it to where you're not going to spill gas all over somebody's car. Alright guys, so here we are. We're going to remove the fuel pump from the tank. And I just got this drain pan here because I could not find a box actually big enough that may or may not hold the pump. So I just grabbed a drain pan. So I'm going to show you guys how to remove this pump here. I know you may not need to know how to do it, but I just want to show the whole process. So of course we have our nylon lines. We just want to kind of push them out of the way and start lifting up on this assembly here. Now, a lot of them you have to kind of get sideways before they'll actually come out of the tank. So kind of wiggle them on out. This one doesn't seem to want to come out very easily. Looks like the springs are catching on the sides of the assembly here. It might be stuck here. Oh, there we go. And then of course you're going to have your level sensor, and you want to pull that. You're going to have to angle the pump off to the side to get that out. Just like that. And then we lay this guy right in the container. Make sure you get it all drained out before you start taking it apart. Alright guys, so here we are in our work area. We've got our fuel pump assembly out. Now for those that don't know, this guy here, this lever here, this arm, that is your fuel tank level sensor or fuel sending unit. So you don't want to damage that in any way. You can remove this arm if you feel safe doing that. There's a couple clips here. I don't know if you're actually seeing that or not, but there's a couple clips here you can remove to take this arm out of the way so that you don't damage it if you start taking things apart. You know, you don't want to have to replace the entire assembly because of one part that broke. So we're going to go ahead and start removing the outer cover of this. And if I remember right, it's literally just a bunch of plastic that we got to take apart. So I'm going to go grab some kind of pick or flat blade screwdriver, and I will be back. Now if you look, I don't know if you guys can see this or not, I can't really see the other end of the camera. So this here and these other ones, these other clips here, you just want to You don't want to break the plastic, you just want to pry it up over the little piece so that you can get the cover off. All you have to do is pry it up a slight amount so that you can get that corner off. Now see, it's a little over it, so you just want to rotate and get to this other side here. You want to do the same thing with this one. Pop it up over that. Okay, and then rotate again. And do the same for this. Now this is all I had was a flat blade screwdriver because of where I am. I thought I had a pick with me and I didn't. Push in here. Yep, and then we'll push in our tab on the other side. It looks like a T. If you guys can see that, you'll push in this side. And then you can pull this entire piece up. Should start to come apart a little better. Because so far this has not been fun. Okay, so there's two tabs in the front here. You can push those in and then you'll be able to remove the sending unit or fuel tank level sensor. That will come up and give you access to the connector for the pump, which is in there. You can barely see it. It's this guy here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. It's the pump connector there. You want to try and get that out because otherwise you can't take out the you can't take out the fuel sending unit unless you press that in too. Alright, so there we go. We got the assembly to come up. And there you have it. Alright guys, so I don't know how well you guys can see this, but so what I did was I just flipped over the whole assembly, and then this guy just came out, and this is your pump housing itself. This is actually where your pump is. So I'm going to show you guys a better view of that. Trying to get the camera at a good angle here. Alright, that looks better. Alright guys, so this is the bottom side of the pump, and it would normally be sticking in the end of this container here, but I flipped the container over and I was able to actually just pull the bottom off to the side. So that's what I did. So what you want to do now is this is your fuel pump strainer. If you turn this around here, you can see that there's two clips in here, and if you push those aside, you can get this retainer out. You just pull that off. Now your pump will move now. You want to grab it from the strainer, right where the strainer is. It's just sitting in there. You want to grab it from the top and literally just pull it on out of there. So now, what I was going to show you guys, now this is an original Nissan pump, and the way I can tell that is if you look, I don't know if the camera will focus very well, but there is a Nissan symbol right on that thing, right there. You can barely see it, but it says on it, Unasia Company, Nissan. So it's either a genuine replacement or this thing is the original. So here we have our pump by herself at our workstation. What we're going to do is we're going to apply 12 volts to our two terminals, not both of them, but a negative and a positive, and find out if this pump comes on. If the pump does turn on, then we need to look elsewhere for a problem. And we obviously saw that our pump was getting power to the connector, so really this would be the last step here in our diagnosis. So what I did, because I don't have any test leads with me, is I have this battery charger that the owner of the vehicle actually had. It's not a high amp, it's on 2 amps right now. And 2 amps isn't very much considering that the fuel pump is a 10 amp system. So we're going to go ahead and apply 12 volts to this system and see if we can get any kind of reaction from our pump. So like I said, you've got our 2 terminals in there. We've got 2 different color wires. What I did was I just bared them because I don't have any test leads or alligator clips. And just for the sake of finding out whether this pump works or not, we're just going to go ahead and touch our 2 terminals inside and find out if this pump comes on or not. And I don't know if you can hear that, but the pump does do something, but it does not whine. The pump does not actually turn on. It's got a lot of restrictions, so we would say that this pump is no good. So I'm going to try that again. Now you guys might not be able to hear it, but it's not doing anything. So this pump is definitely toast. Now I want to take off the strainer and show you inside the actual impeller or propeller, it would be an impeller, actually moving, and we're going to find out if it actually is moving or not. So you want to take off this little grommet here. We don't need this pump, so we don't have to worry about damaging it or anything like that. So we're almost 100% that this is no good. So I'm going to go ahead and take the strainer off. Now the strainer is not meant to be removable, so you kind of have to break it off. It's got a retainer in the back of it here that keeps you from taking this off, or basically it just keeps you from making it fall off into the tank. But they usually don't want you replacing these unless you're replacing the pump, so they make it to where you can't service them. Now you guys may not be able to see that, but right under that strainer there's a impeller, and that's the actual pump impeller that's moving the gasoline. So what you really want to check is when you apply 12 volts, if that impeller moves. If it does not move, this pump motor is no good. So we're going to go ahead and apply 12 volts to that now, and I'm going to see if I can get a shot of it you know, in the camera here. I'm going to try my best. See if that guy's actually moving. Give me a second here. I'm working at trying to get these leads in there. Now this is why it helps to have the right tools. I mean, I came unprepared. It's not that I came unprepared. I came unexpecting this. I came with what I had in my toolbox. So I don't know. Let me see if it actually moves or not first. Now if you guys can look in there, I don't know if the light is good enough, but when I touch our 12 volts to that pump, it does not move whatsoever, and I can actually feel it humming in my hand. So I don't know if you guys can actually see that in there. I'll try and get a better close-up. I don't think there's good enough light, but here I go. I'll try and test it again. Now I'm holding it there, and we're getting nothing from the pump. Nothing. Alright guys, here we are back again. I'm going to show you guys how to reassemble this assembly with a new pump. And I'm going to show you all the things you're going to get with the new pump. And yeah, basically we're just going to go ahead and reinstall this guy. So this is our pump assembly, our pump housing, fuel pump assembly, I guess you would call it. We're going to go ahead and remove our new pump from the from the box here. Now this is part number. Now I got this part from Advance Auto. It's the CarQuest brand, but Advance Auto owns CarQuest now. So, and that's where I get most of my parts because I have a commercial account with them. And this part number is CarQuest part number E2471. That's E2471. Now it's just the fuel pump, not the entire assembly, of course. So when you open your box, you're going to have your pump itself in the bag here. We're obviously going to want to remove that. And there's going to be a plug over the top of that. That is where your, that's the end of it that's going to go into the pump assembly. And that's what's going to take the fuel from the tank into the lines, of course. So we don't need to remove those from the pump quite yet. We can if you want to, you don't have to. Now, since this pump can go in other vehicles, it's always good to check and make sure that the adapters that you need, you have them. Now, our pump had a rubber grommet or a retainer per se, and that's this guy. Now, not all of them come with the exact one you need, so we're going to check and see if this set actually has one. If it does, we're going to replace it. We are going to reuse our old strainer, and I'm going to go ahead and clean it out with carb cleaner, and we'll go ahead and reinstall that. Cleaner. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's pretty clean anyway. So we're going to go ahead and reuse it. And it does come with a new clip to hold it onto the new pump. Up here, take our strainer. There's a hole there. There's a hole here. You just match them up. Press it on. Get it on there tight. And then you take your clip, your retainer, and you put that retainer underneath on that post that's there so that strainer does not come off. Alright guys, so I fought with that clip for a little while and I finally got it on there. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall this pump into the housing here. Alright, now's the time you want to remove your, you can go ahead and remove this rubber cover from the line here, pull it on off, and then we're just going to get our assembly that we had before, and we're going to flip it back upside down. And you want to look down in there and make sure the grommet is still in there for the pump. Make sure that's still in there, you're not going to get proper sealing of the fuel. So, we're going to go ahead and install that. Now there's a hole in there and you want to face that hole towards it, or face that piece towards it, so we're going to go ahead and install this. Now we also want to still install this guy behind it. This is going to go on top of our pump here in the back. Just like a grommet per se. I don't think it actually fits this one, so I guess we're going to have to use the new one. The old one doesn't really fit the way the other one did, so, or the new one does, I'm sorry. So then you want to put that on. And then you want to grab that clip that you used, this guy, and reinstall that over that piece. And we may have some trouble getting this guy in. The pump is fully installed, but the rubber grommet's not wanting to fit right, so we're going to use the old one anyway. It's not going to go anywhere. Oh, the old one does fit just fine, so it's okay to use it. And then you take your clip, reinstall that guy back on it, and that's going to hold your pump down. Alright, so there's the fuel pump assembly. We're going to go ahead and start reinstalling that, or basically putting it back together so that we can install it in the car. Alright, so we can go ahead and lift it up here, and then there's your connector for the pump, and you might as well just go ahead and connect that now, because otherwise it's going to be harder if you wait. So just go ahead and connect it now the best way that you can. It's not going to be easy, so just you know, work with it, get it in there the best way you can, click it on in there, and you're good to go. Alright, so now we've got that in there. Now, there's these springs in here that I was telling you about, so make sure that you don't lose those. And actually, the best way to probably do that is just flip it back the way it's supposed to be, and then just kind of feed it all back through the bottom of that assembly here. That's the only way I could get it out. That's the way it's probably going to go in, so just got to get it at the right angle here. Alright. So it looks like we got it. Now there's two pegs, one on this side and then one on the other side. They have to line up with the holes where the springs are. So if you don't get those in there holes, this pump assembly is not going to go back down. And once you get them in there, it will definitely slide back down. Then you can go ahead and put your fuel sending unit back in to the click till it clicks there at the bottom, and then this is all connected again. And then you just push this top down, and we're back together. So now we just need to reinstall it in the vehicle. So you just press down on it, everything's reinstalled, and we're good to go. Alright guys, so here we are with our fuel pump assembly here, with our new pump installed into the assembly, and we are going to go ahead and reinstall that now back into the car. So one of the things I want to show you is, if you look in here, there's the rubber ring that sits in there, the gasket, and that's sitting right on the edge of that. Now you want that to stay there, so don't drop that in. And if you need to replace it, you can replace it, but that sits right on top there, and it seals this surface against that tank surface. So we're going to go grab the ones that came with our set, make sure that we replace it. We don't want to leave the old one in there. So like I said, it comes with two of them. More than likely, you will only have one that fits, because they just give you other ones for other makes and models too, because that pump probably fits, you know, 10 or 20 other cars, who knows. So we're going to get that set in there just like that. You guys can see that, right? Get that set in there, get our pump lines out of the way. We don't want to drop that ring down into the tank, so be very careful. So you want to get this guy in there first, and scrape the edge of that rubber ring there, the O-ring that you just set down. Go ahead and get this assembly set in. There we go. So now we got all that started in there, and we're in. So we want to keep our lines out of the way, obviously, and then we want to make sure that this still pops up, because that means that that's pushing the pump to the bottom of the tank, and that is what you want. That has to happen for it to get the right level. So if it's picking up, it's not going to work properly. So you can take these lines back to where they were now. You can take your metal ring, move your lines out of the way, get this metal ring back down on top here, and you want to line it up with the spaces that are in this piece here, and then just get your bolts started, you know, one at a time, however you like to do it. It's in there, and then we can reconnect our lines. Alright guys, so now you just want to reconnect your nylon lines here. I've already got those all those screws or bolts in, whatever you want to call them. And now we just want to reconnect our nylon lines here for our fuel system. And literally you just line up the clips and you just push them in until they click. And once they click, you're good to go. So we're going to do this one next. Put that guy on there the best we can. Pull it up, make sure it doesn't come back off if you give it a good yank. Of course, we don't want those, you know, coming back off while the pump is in. So now we can install our pump cover, which is this guy. And we can, first of all, we need to fix this wire that somebody cut. If you remember that, I'm going to go ahead and just put a butt connector in there, and I can show you guys how to do that too. Alright guys, so we've got our butt connector here, and we're just going to go ahead and repair this wire that somebody left open. So you just want to put both ends into the butt connector as far as you can push them. Get them both in there pretty tight. Alright, and then you want to crimp on. Just give a couple crimps somewhere. I don't have the actual tool for this right now, so I'm just kind of using what I have in the field. So don't do it too tight, you don't want to cut through it. So you just want to get a good seal on that. And then we can go ahead. Now, I would wrap that in tape too, if I were you. I'm not going to do that, but you can wrap that in tape just to be safe that it's a good repair. Now, here we have this grommet. You can just push that through, reinstall that in the cover the best way that you can, and then it's in there. And then you can reconnect this connector here to the pump, get it on there, and then you can reinstall this cover here how it fits on, of course. And that would be like this. And then these guys are supposed to be a Phillips screwdriver, but they never work that way. So I just use what I have to kind of put them the way they need to be to lock down. Now I tried to use a Phillips earlier and they just stripped out big time. So your best bet's to grab a pair of pliers and just turn them yourself without a screwdriver. They just turn so you can lock in that plate just like this. Best way you can get them. It's not hurting anything if you don't even lock it down. So just make sure that you try and get it the way it was when you left it, of course. And then this line here goes through this loom clip, and then through this loom clip also. And then so you're done back here. So now we're just going to try and start the vehicle up and verify the repair. Alright guys, so if you remember, we used our starter fluid up here and we took off all of our intake piping. And of course we want to reinstall all that now that we have proper fuel, hopefully, in the system, and we want to make sure it's running. So we want to go ahead and reinstall all the things that we took off for the intake assembly. Alright guys, so here we are again. We reinstalled our intake, we reinstalled our air box, and got all our hoses clamped up, and our mass airflow sensor is now plugged back in. We're going to go ahead and try and start this thing. Alright, turn our key, see what we got here. Alright, that is a running car, guys. Always verify the repair. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me again, and we'll see you next time. Make sure you drop a like or leave a comment if you want to see more repair videos like this, so that I can get them out there. And till next time.